Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fireside Chat number 34. Today's guest is Jeremy Williamson of Christ-Centered Gaming. Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. I'm not of Christ-centered gaming though.
Oh, wait.
I
Did I
help
get that wrong?
Christ-centered gaming.
You helped them.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's
um,
right above his. It's right above his head there, Doge. That's his
uh,
head.
Divine
Yeah.
Order of Jesus Geeks.
Yes,
Yes.
the Divine Order of Jesus Geeks.
Okay. And there's an affiliation they help out with Christ-Centered Gaming.
Yeah. Well, I got to know Christ-centered gaming during the Gamergate. I'm pro Gamergate, uh, and I asked them if they wanted me to hand out their cards at my table because this was in 2015, and since then, both times that I've been at the expo, I've given the cards out. So that's how we're related.
Oh, okay. Um, so no,
Okay,
that clears that up.
yeah, it does. It clears up many mysteries. All right. So are we gonna set up the situation? Why Jeremy is on?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, real quick, Jeremy, what is it that you do? Like what is it that you do with regards to this whole
What's my table?
yeah.
Well, I'm actually sponsored by my church. The first year I was sponsored by my church to hand out comic book Bibles. I've gone to the expo a couple of times before I had a table there, and I was handing out these Action Bible comic books. They're the Bible in comic book form. They're illustrated by Sergio Cariello, and you can see his face there. He's a Marvel artist. He's done some work for DC Comics as well. I had individual free comic books that I gave out to people, and then I sold these Bibles for $10, which is selling at a loss for us. But my intent was just to meet people. I'm a geek myself. I'm in video games. I got thousands of video games, quite literally, and I enjoyed the expos, and I thought, I want to share my superhero. I think of Jesus as my superhero, and I wanted to share that, and I thought I could connect with people through the comic books. So that's what my table was.
Okay, so you didn't actually they were saying you were handing, or actually didn't say anything. But you weren't actually like going up to people and handing them stuff or getting in their space or you
No,
know.
I had a non-profit table in Hall D, right where the actors are, right by the exit where the actors are. So everybody was going by my table. So pretty well everybody at the expo saw me. And the first year that I was there, I even had the director come by my table at the end and promise to have the same table for me next year and want to know how things went, whether anybody was angry at me or whatnot. And I had a great experience in both last year and this year.
Okay, so you weren't actually actively promoting the stuff at your table. Do you have an example of the cards that you were handing out for Christ-centered gamings? Gaming?
No, I'm sorry. That's the same thing both years. I handed out all material. I actually left the expo first thing Sunday morning both times because I had nothing left to give out.
Oh, okay. Could you describe the cards that you were giving out?
Yeah, it was just a little square black card that said Christ-centered gaming, and it had a link to their URL or a link to their website, or typed link to their website. And I'd give them to people. They'd come up to the table. They'd want to know what. A lot of people thought my name was pretty funny, so they'd come up and just comment on the name. And I'd tell them about the comic book, and then I'd say, I also have these cards for this great website where you can get a review of video games from both a Christian perspective as well as how fun the game was, and it's an unbiased review. The fun one is an unbiased review. And that's it was a great place, even if you're not a Christian or you don't believe, then you can find out without the influence of the media or the developers.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to turn off your video just because I think it's causing a lot of lag and it might improve your
Sure.
audio. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so it sounds like basically all you did was you sat at a table, you had cards that just said Christ-centered gaming in their website that's devoted to reviewing games, and you had a Bible that it was in comic book form that people were probably interested in just because it's also, the stories are interesting and the characters are fun. And
Well, I had 150 of the Bibles and 500 of the free comics, and I gave everything away.
all right, so you didn't approach anyone; they just approached you, and if they had an interest in your materials, you gave it to them. And if they had an interest in taking your cards, you gave it to them, and that's all you did.
Yep. I never left my table. Never bothered anybody outside the table.
All right.
And I got another question about what do for those people who may not know, what is Christ-centered gaming? What makes that website different from other gaming websites?
Well, they do family reviews of video games from a Christian perspective. So they do two reviews. One is on the moral issues of the game, and as a Christian, what did you think of the game? And then they do another review of, I played this game. Did I think it was fun? Did I enjoy myself? What were the pros and cons of the game as a game? And they've been doing that for a while, and they've actually taken the format from an older site called, and they've modified it slightly, called Alman Coney Ministries, which I originally did reviews for them back when Alman Coney was around, but they've shut down since then.
So the website does game reviews, but they separate them. They do it in two separate formats. One that focuses on the morality of the game for people who might have a concern with that, and the other one is more objective. It's just like, does it work? Is it fun? Does it accomplish its goals as a game?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They don't get paid by any publishers. They have to purchase their games.
So they're pretty small?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're that big. I don't know a lot about the inner workings because I've only been affiliated with them for a short while, and they would somebody from Christ-centered Gaming would probably be able to tell you more about how big they are.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify exactly what was going on at your table, and just to make sure that it wasn't a situation where you were actively promoting anything, which just doesn't sound like you were. You just had the materials available, and if people were interested, they approached. If not, you didn't get in their space. You didn't do anything to try to encourage them to come. Well, you might have, even if you did, that wouldn't have been a big deal, but it doesn't sound like you even did anything to encourage them to come over.
I actually got into an argument with a fellow on Twitter about this, but I didn't do anything more than the Viking Club or the Star Wars Fan Club or any of those other groups. Basically I was handing out pamphlets just like any other club. I mean, I'm not part of a club. It's a religion. It's a faith. But I wasn't doing anything different from any other non-profit table.
All right. So in essence, well, let's just, to do a theoretical. If there was, for example, a feminist group, with a non-profit table that simply had business cards and a feminist publication, and they just handed that out, or if people asked them to, that would be sort of the equivalent of what you did.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the only thing you could have done, and we're getting to sort of the meat of the matter, unless Brian has any more questions to just set up the context of what he was doing at the Calgary Expo over the weekend.
No, the main reason why I asked about what Christ-centered gaming was because I wanted to see what kind of what it was, because it could it have some bad reputation. It's just important to know a little bit about everything that he's involved with, because to see where the logic could have followed for people who have no idea what he's about or who he represents. And I also wanted to ask another question too. Have you been to other convention events outside of Calgary Expo oriented ones
No.
and set up tables and stuff, or has it only been with these people?
It's only been with these people. But
Okay.
in 2015, I had a fellow that travels around to all the expos in North America. He was kind of like a expo journalist. And he told me that I was the first time he'd ever seen a faith-based table at an expo in Canada. So,
All right. So this is a first of its kind, and it's only really been done at the Calgary Expo, and it represents a website that seems, you know, really harmless in the way that it does things. And as Allison was pointing out, you know, you were just essentially the table is completely optional. People approach you if they wanted to talk to you. If they didn't, then that was it. You didn't go and to other booths or anything like that, right?
Not as a table. I mean, I went and visited other booths just to see what they had. But
Sure,
I
sure.
didn't mention.
That's understandable. So let's, I guess some people are wondering what's going on, and we probably should have informed them in the beginning of the show. Jeremy
Go ahead.
Jeremy was kicked out, or was informed after he finished attending the Calgary Expo, that he was uninvited back, and it's based on their new policies. And if you just give me a moment, I can pull those up. Those new policies in which you can't actually be promoting any kind of politics or religious material. And what's really interesting is that the only thing that Jeremy did was essentially have business cards for Christ-Centered Gaming, which is a Christian gaming review site, and Bibles, and comic action Bibles.
Yeah.
So this level of promotion is almost identical to just simply being there. I mean, is there a way you could have been there under your name and not done any promotion? Is there any way you could have even attended the Calgary Expo, sat at your table, and abided by the do not promote religion without not actually being there?
Well, the only way I could have fulfilled their policy is if I sat at my table and never said anything, didn't say hi, didn't offer a free comic to anybody.
So essentially, the only way you could have abided by their policy would have been to not have anything at your table, have no products to promote your group at all.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting, because that would, if the expo is making these decisions based on its own political leanings, I wonder how they would approach, for example, if the Mary Sue said, yeah, we're going to have a table, and we're going to hand out business cards with the Mary Sue on them and some publications that are feminist comics.
Well,
how they would approach that.
There were other tables there that were handing out free comics. They were handing out Captain Canuck comics at one of the other tables. So I was doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but except in your case you had something with religious material in it. So it's exactly the same thing. So I said,
Thor comic would have religious material in it, if you want to get technical about it.
Sorry?
A Thor comic would have religious material in it.
Yeah, you're right. It would have pagan material, and that's one of the questions that I actually raised amongst the honey badgers. Like, how are they going to deal with, for example, the Wiccan religion? A lot of the iconology used in fantasy is borrowed from paganism. So are they going to start saying that that's advocating or promoting Wiccan or paganism? Like, how are they going to? And for anybody who's interested, I can read the entirety of their new policy.
Yeah, they also sell at a lot of cons. You can get jewelry and stuff that has, like pagan symbols on it, right? Like pentacles and crosses too. I mean, like, I know that the goth crowd likes to buy stuff from those places. Beads, like for Buddhists and stuff.
Every year that I've been at the expo, there has been tables with material that mock Christianity. So it's not even that they're promoting a religious; they're mocking a religious group. So they have religious material whether they're promoting it or not. It's there were 4 tables at the expo this year that had religious material. Like there was mine, then there was the Gamer Church, which had a massive poster of Jesus holding an Xbox controller, which you could see from the other side of the hall. There was a group that was promoting or selling to raise money for Syrian refugees, and there was a table that was making those little, jewelry and ornaments that had fish symbols and other Christian symbols on them. So they're going to be eliminating a lot of tables if they actually hold to this policy.
But the way that it's laid out, and I know that Allison's going to read the exact text, as I understand it.
Why don't we read the exact text before we discuss it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the amendment to the Calgary Expo is as follows: 15.12 Character of exhibits. All exhibits must be in good taste and be family-friendly and non-discriminatory in nature, keeping in the theme and nature of the event. All exhibits must further be non-associative or must not promote any specific religion or political doctrine. Final determination of what shall qualify shall be made by the exhibitor manager and operations manager of the Calgary, Edmonton, and Saskatoon Comic and Entertainment Expo. All exhibitors are subject to continuing assessment throughout the event. And this is what was sent to Jeremy specifically. This policy was updated last year, and we allowed those who had already booked with us to continue for the 2016 Calgary Expo. We will be following our policies going forward, and as such, we will not be renewing your nonprofit table for the upcoming 2017 Calgary Expo. So, essentially what they've done is they've reserved the right to determine for themselves what they consider to be promoting a political viewpoint. And if anyone were to, find out that in the case of, if some feminist group called up and they actually said, no, we'll just take a look at the materials you're going to be, because the reason why I went along the questioning that I did with Jeremy is that the only way he could have complied with their policy and not promoted is if he hadn't have used the name of his group, if he hadn't had brought just business cards with the name of another Christ or religious group, and he hadn't brought the Bible that promoted the religious material, the religious comic book material. But if there's any situation in which another political group asked to see if they could access the Calgary Expo, and the Calgary Expo said, oh, let's just look at your promotion materials instead of saying no, point blank, then they've reserved for themselves the right to decide which politics is allowed. But they've already decided that Christian is right out. And I assume Gamergate is right out with that.
Yeah, well, that was interesting when the Honey Badgers were kicked out. The conversations that were on the tables next to me were quite colorful.
Yeah, I know you told us that they were the people talking about us getting kicked out were quite cheerful about us being, or were happy.
They didn't know anything about the situation. It was more just gossip, and they were talking about a hate group got kicked out, and it was kind of sad.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting that they updated their policies last year, and I think it's probably directly related to the fact that we attended, even though we did even, like, in terms of what you did, we did even less. We didn't actually, we handed out our business cards if people asked, but for the most part, we just talked to our fans, people who already knew about us, and if somebody asked, we might say that we also do a geek radio show, but for the most part, we were trying to sell, or we were involved in, not for the most part, but aside from talking to fans, and providing sort of a point where people could pick up their merchandise, Honey Badger related merchandise, we didn't really do anything. We didn't hand out pamphlets. Mm-hmm. We didn't. No, we didn't. We did almost no promotion of any political viewpoint, aside from just being there and saying that we do this thing.
Yeah, there was a poster,
yeah,
or a banner, and that was it. We didn't. We were selling comics and buttons. and that's it.
Yeah.
Really.
I know that the atmosphere at the expo last year completely changed after you guys were kicked out. It became very negative, and I had received no negative comments from anyone up until the Saturday morning, and then I started getting negative and not really attack, but insulting things were being said at us after you guys got kicked out. So that really changed the way in which the expo atmosphere behaved afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't. So yeah, I would. It's interesting how that happened, and it's also interesting that they changed that. To be quite honest, it looks like they changed the policies for us and because of us.
Yeah, and then they're using them now to get rid of other tables that they don't like.
And other political points of view that they don't like. I'm sure that
Yeah.
anyone who's libertarian, because I wonder what they mean by this phrase that they're using. Exhibits must further be non-associative. Does that mean that if anybody who is a libertarian who decides to sell, I don't know, their beads or an
Ayn Rand comic.
Yeah, well, geez, that's right out. But I mean, even a libertarian who decides to sell or promote nothing to do with libertarianism,
Yeah.
are they going to start, because that's associative? If that person is an outspoken libertarian, are they going to kick him out because it's associative?
It's they're basically saying that if you're known to be related to any particular group that we don't agree with, then we can say no, you're not welcome.
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm hearing. And I'm not sure how they're going to deal with their association with the Mary Sue, because the Mary Sue has a political viewpoint. And under these guidelines, they shouldn't be able to exhibit, and why would they be able to host panels or even have their logo on any kind of Calgary Expo material? I mean, that's promoting a particular group which is associated with a political position. So I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to purge Mary Sue. So they're making definite. They are promoting. In my opinion, I don't know for sure, but it looks like very suspiciously they are promoting a political dogma, and they're expecting people to toe the line.
Well, they added posters and things this year that said cosplay is not consent.
They were there last year.
They had those they were there last year.
They seem to have them more prominently this year.
Probably. They're probably going to ramp it up every year, implying that despite all of their postering, the assault of cosplayers is only getting worse and worse, even though it's probably non-existent or very close to non-existent.
But that message about consent is a political message. That's been started by feminism. So it's even in their posters, they're promoting a political message for the expo itself.
Yeah, well, the political message is that a sufficient number of people need to be told that something isn't consent.
Yeah.
That's no. It's an interesting quandary. I'm sure that they're not going to get rid of their association with the Mary Sue. And judging from what got you banned, are you banned or are you just disinvited?
Well, my group is banned. My table name is banned. I don't know whether I'm personally banned, but I'm not feeling really inclined to go back. So
I can understand that.
And it's interesting because my table wasn't funded by me. It was funded by my denomination, and a lot of people have been asking me if I'm going to be filing a human rights complaint. I can't personally file a human rights complaint because my funding came from my denomination, and it's really up to them whether they want to pursue a complaint. And I don't think they see it as a serious enough issue.
Really?
Yeah, I believe it's probably, from what I've been told from pastors and other people, that's the PR, having chat like this and the Twitter fire that I had to deal with after I told everybody has done a lot of done about as much as going through the Human Rights Court is going to take. That takes years and it costs a lot. And
Yeah, well, I don't think it's done yet because this is a very, very bad precedent, especially when you consider that the Expo basically controls access to this particular marketplace for most of the Western Canadian prairies. So if you're a creative professional, you're now stuck having to abide by their political orthodoxy or be removed.
yeah,
And
I do see that there would be a good possibility for a complaint. I don't know. I don't think the denomination will go for it. I don't think.
well, they did discriminate against you as a Christian.
That's true, but they didn't. Like I said, I don't think they actually banned me from coming. They banned my table, which.
So you're saying you might be able to? Would you be able to set up a table, but just not under that sort of, like just as yourself, or?
Well, if I was doing something completely different, but it might be they know my name. They have my name on record. So if I've tried to have another table, they'd probably suspect I was trying to get around their policy. So as far as
yeah.
I could buy an attendance badge and just go and attend
for the event.
Yeah. So they're not really blocking me personally as a Christian. They're blocking Christianity as a voice to be there.
Right. So,
This
Allison,
is just so ominous.
No, it absolutely is. Did you guys check to see, because we are talking about them supposedly not wanting to have tables there that have a religious or political agenda, as it were. But feminism is a political ideology.
How do you even call it a religion?
Oh yeah, we have, much to the chagrin of many people who don't think it should be called that. And it is, yes. But when didn't you and Hannah or check it out or whatever?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to get into that too much on air,
Okay.
but yeah, it's an interesting situation, but it is sort of shaping up that they are going to be discriminatory.
Yeah.
So
and
they
they-
basically have they have people who decide what
what's
counts
acceptable.
as religious and
What counts
political, and then therefore what counts as unacceptable.
And what counts as promotion too.
Yeah.
This is like very Orwellian. And the interesting thing is that when my husband explained all of this to my father-in-law, and my husband's name is Jonathan, by the way, and Jonathan was quite affected by the whole being expelled because of the way that we were treated by the Expo staff. And a lot of, like, when I hear these stories about how people were basically cheering us being expelled, it actually is really affecting. But when he was talking to his father, my father-in-law, about this situation, about specifically your situation, Jeremy.
Yeah.
His father-in-law is sort of a lay scholar of World War II, and he said, that sounds like they're the brown shirts. And, they don't start by shoving people into ovens. They start by bullying people. They start by ostracizing people, and they start with the people that nobody likes.
Yeah.
Nobody liked the Jews. Nobody liked the Gypsies. And then when they get everyone to engage in atrocities against or stigmatization against the groups they don't like, then they move to all of their opponents, even people that they may be a lot more like. And so it's like, if you were there during that time, a lot of the people listening now would have been cheering as these National Socialists started bullying all the people that they didn't like, and shoving them out the door. And it's like that's how it starts. And then as they consolidate power on the groups that nobody likes.
You look at the policies that the provincial and the federal government are trying to bring in. They're trying to expand the definitions of hate speech so broadly that they're going to throw people in prison for 2 years for saying something that offended somebody. That's brown shirt policies there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's really messed up.
Yeah. I'm actually wondering what the hell's going on with chat. Someone said, "Come on, Allison, you're better than that." Better than what? Better than recognizing reality?
I've had a few run-ins with people that refuse to accept reality. But they've stigmatized the whole association with Hitler so much on the internet. They mock people who say, "Oh, you're like Hitler," just to shut down the argument. Because when somebody actually is showing behavior similar to what the Nazis did, or what Stalin's group did, that they say, "Oh, you're just you have no arguments, so now you're calling people like Hitler." But they ignore.
The individual in question says, they're not going to do that. No, they're not going to do it immediately. But like I said, they start with a consolidation of power on soft targets, and then they move to harder and harder targets. There is no reason why that can't happen here. Germany, before National Socialism, was a democracy.
It only took Hitler 2 years. 2 years after getting power, he was shooting people in the street.
And the fact that we can't actually draw parallels is also scary. Because there's nothing that prevents it from happening again. What prevents it from happening again except identifying it when it does happen? Well, do you think this is going to stop here? Do you think they're just going to consolidate their power over this particular marketplace? And
they have power over 103,000 attendees. Right? They've influenced an expo such that 103,000 people go through that expo, and they're only exposed to what the expo wants them to be exposed to. They're manipulating and shaping politics in order to further their agenda.
So no mirror required. You could say that about anything. That's the problem with the Nazi allegory. No, you really couldn't, because I don't think about anybody. I don't think there's any particular group right now who's engaging in this kind of behavior, trying to silence and intimidate.
You look at what's happening in the United States down with the Bernie Sanders supporters turning violent. That's the same kind of mentality that's growing. Yeah. They're gradually getting bolder and bolder, and it's not going to get better before it gets worse.
It's the danger of like a self-righteousness that is cloaked in a lack of self-awareness. Like these people are convinced that they're right, and when you're really convinced that you're right, and you don't listen to dissenting opinion, and you don't even consider that you could be wrong at all, then it justifies a lot of really terrible behavior. And you just, you don't even consider that what you're doing is wrong. And, that's where that comes from.
You consider yourself entirely justified.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't want to be right about this. Or alternatively, if I am right about this, I really don't want it to go as far as it could go. Because there is a way that we could end up with a society in which one group of people is being shoved into ovens. And because there is actually a demarcation, there's a line here that's happening. And it's between the feminists and the social justice warriors, who are very much in control of the media, and how everyone, in many cases, how people are perceived by the public, and us, those of us who are about free speech. We may not be conservative, we may not necessarily be Trump supporters or Bernie Sanders supporters or interested in politics at all, but we have run afoul of the social justice narrative, and they are starting to use their positions and their platforms to try to silence us. And not just starting, they are very much in the process of doing this, and also deny us fundamental things like access to the marketplace where our careers are, if you're an artist, I mean, if you're an artist, you basically can kiss your career goodbye if you are not pro-social justice or pro-feminism.
Well, look at Justin Trudeau. He has said that on a national television in one of his interviews, I can't remember which interview it was, but he said that Gamergate was a hate group and it needs to be stamped out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this isn't some kind of small conspiracy thing. This isn't like look at what's happening at the expo. The expo is kind of a symptom of what's happening at our provincial and federal levels. They have the backing of our current government to behave in a discriminatory manner, and that'll eventually lead to certain groups being isolated as being offensive or unnecessary.
I know, and eventually they'll get into their head that the only way to really eradicate their ills that they see everywhere is to eradicate the people who have spoken out against them, or spoken out against their policies, or spoken out against their censorship, or spoken out against the collusion or the issues in media. I mean, we don't have to the genocide, as it were, doesn't actually have to be a genocide. It can be based on ideological grounds or a refusal to believe as the people with the guns and swords want you to believe. So it can be completely defined by those of us who are interested in more of a libertarian approach or classical liberal values, and those who are not and want to. And like I said, it's a situation where this metastasizes into something that becomes a huge fucking problem. McCarthy, huge fucking problem, same kind of deal. Luckily, that didn't metastasize into actual violence, although it may have. I'm not as read up about that as I should be. But it does not, like I was saying, the lines of discrimination do not have to be drawn based on race or gender or religious belief. They can be drawn based on just I don't know, just ideology.
Look what Mao did. He did it based on ideology, and he killed 45 million people. I think it was 45. I think that's what I read. 45 million. So it doesn't have to be, like you say. It can be totally based on ideology, and they're already starting with this 2-year prison sentence for hate speech that they propose, which I can't see anything stopping it from being passed. You're going to start seeing political prisoners in Canada.
Oh, this is fucking depressing.
It is. Yeah.
Well.
Well, I don't know what else we can say today.
Yeah. I mean, we know this was basically to see what direction the Calgary Expo is going, and it's important to point out that this is a direct reaction to us going last year.
Yeah, it's pretty much this is a reaction to us. We have caused them to change their policies, and it's so ironic. It's so ironic that they talk about free speech.
Yeah.
And non-discrimination.
They're pretty obviously, I mean, you can't get any more obvious that they're discriminating than saying you can't be affiliated with a religious or political group. That's so obviously discriminatory.
They basically just added in a clause after what happened last year, and I think it's probably for a few reasons, but I think that it's mainly because they want to avoid what happened last year again. And maybe the Mary Sue wanted to be protected. I don't know. Maybe they had a talk about the whole deal. But I don't. This is completely related.
But wait a second. I thought that, I mean, according to the Mary Sue, it wasn't at all about politics. It was only about the fact that I was derailing the conversation. It was off topic. If I had only applied for a panel, they would, of course, given it to me and given me a platform to speak.
You were woman interrupting.
Yeah. It's like...
I listened to the audio, too. I mean, it's so clear that they asked you the question, and you politely asked them, Can I answer that?
Yeah, I think that what because a lot of times this is what happens. I think that they put out that they were talking, and one of them put it out there in a form of a question, but thought that the answer to that was so obvious that nobody would dare stand up and actually have an answer that
Yeah, they
wasn't.
thought it was rhetorical.
Yeah, if they thought it was rhetorical, like I'm just saying this thing that, I mean, who's going to disagree with this? And then somebody said, Allison said, well, I can speak to that if you're interested. Unless you just want to sit up there and just, have your little hug box going on, your hug box action. And when they said, well, they even had an opportunity to say, no, we were being rhetorical, we know the answer to this question already, or we've already decided what it is. But instead of doing that, they said, yeah, because they had, like somebody challenged them. And they were so sure that they were right that they were probably like, well, what could this person possibly have to say that's going to change my opinion? And then when Allison made her point and made her statement, and it turned to a bit of a dialogue, right? So my dog is sneezing in the background.
Yeah, okay, my cat is whining in the background.
Yeah. But that's when, despite the fact that they were really polite there, they got, internally triggered. I don't know, like, is that like a soft trigger? Basically, they were not happy. But they didn't want to show it right then and there,
Or maybe, I don't know, or something happened, because a lot of this, like, if you see the progression of Brittany LeBlanc's tweets, she starts off and, that was interesting, especially with men's rights activists in the audience. Interesting. So she characterized the panel as interesting, and then after Sam Maggs talks to her, she starts to characterize the panel as disrespectful and disappointing. It's like...
I think that a lot was said about the expo sending the riot van into the park. That said everything about the expo.
Yeah. This is like, you honestly believe if the people involved in the expo had brown shorts, they had an army of brown shirts, that they wouldn't be beating the crap out of people who disagreed with them?
Well,
honestly,
it shows they had a level of power to call out a riot van. Like, they had connections in the Calgary police. That's kind of scary.
DC Frank says to us, he says, Allison, Brian, Jeremy, what you've experienced last year and what we're experiencing now is that political correctness is not benign.
No, it's anytime.
No, it's
and
not.
Interestingly enough, when we spoke about Jeremy's situation on the Polecat, someone said, oh wow, the Christians, well, they were part of all the bullying, they got people censored, but way back when. But get this, the Christians that censored people when Christianity could be used as a moral bludgeoning tool are not the same Christians who are a part of Christianity now, where in those locations where it can't be used as a bludgeoning tool. And you know why? Because the people who use moral systems as bludgeoning tools are moving to other moral systems that can be used as bludgeoning tools. So they're now social justice warriors and feminists.
And
it's
Muslims.
the same group of fucking people. Yeah, and Muslims to a degree. Radical Muslims. It's the same groups of people. It's the same personality and character type. They go where they can use a belief system as a moral bludgeon. So they actually don't have anything to do with the belief system except using it as a weapon in those instances where it can be used as a weapon. And as soon as the belief system can't be used as a weapon, you don't find those people in those belief systems anymore. So all of the people in the past who are using Christianity as a moral bludgeon have migrated to feminism and social justice and political correctness.
And you can see in like, as a Christian too, I mean, there is nothing in what Jesus said anywhere that to use his beliefs as a moral bludgeon, right? So you can see that they were not actually following the belief that they said they were following. There's no basis for that.
Yeah. Well, I would, like there are problematic parts of almost every belief system, but they all become, in my opinion, the same belief system when a majority of its adherents start thinking that the world would be a better place if everyone believed as I did. And that starts justifying all of the censorship, all of the stigmatization of others, all of the violence, all of the genocide, all of the rape and murder. It just comes right out of that one thought, and that's when every belief system becomes the same belief system. And that's when enough of its adherents think, if everyone believed as I did, the world would be a better place. And then they go out and try to make that happen no matter what. And it's like, like I said, the people who use moral systems as a bludgeoning tool just move on to a new moral system. And it's... oh, okay.
You can never force somebody to believe something. And I can't believe, I mean, I can't understand how many times that's been repeated in history over thousands of years. You can't force people to believe something. It just doesn't happen. But that's what they try to do.
Yep.
I just had a thought. So Calgary Expo just changed their, they just put this clause in that allows them essentially control over who gets to have a panel or a booth at their convention and who does not. And I wonder, before this happened, it was pretty much open season. Like, if you can afford it and like what you had, fit like whatever the general sort of outline of what is acceptable for most conventions that deal with the same stuff, like comic books, you were good to go. You could just have a table, a booth or whatever.
Well, when I applied for my table in 2014, there was a couple of hoops I had to jump through.
Okay, what were those hoops?
They said, how do you fit in here? Like, this isn't really a religious thing. A lot of religious people don't like the pop culture stuff. They don't like. This is what they were telling me, and I had to write out an explanation as to why they should allow me in and why I would fit in and why I wouldn't be causing a problem. So I had to basically write out an application that had to be approved.
Is that for all nonprofits or just because you were Christian based?
I think it's because I was Christian based. I cannot see them asking these same kinds of questions to other groups. But it was under different management when I applied in 2014. So it might have, the same people aren't there anymore. So there was some change at the end of 2015. They brought in a new manager, a new organizer. So, but I think the questions that were asked me were more of the person that was actually taking the information was curious themselves. They're like, how does a Christian group fit into a comic expo or a pop culture expo? And so they asked me to explain how I would fit in.
Well, what I wonder about is, I wonder if this clause, this addition to the rules of who gets in and who doesn't, I wonder if it's not limited to the Calgary Expo as of this, as of now, because I'm reminded last year after we got kicked out, there was a Colorado comic convention. And there were people in Gamergate that asked them if they could have a booth there, but they were pretty upfront. They said, we want to put a Gamergate booth at this Denver Comic Con, I think it was, and they said, oh no Gamergate, no, because you guys are terrorists or whatever. So, I mean, and I think I'm sure that the people who asked were pretty sure that they were going to say no, but after what happened at CalX, they wanted to know. If this is sort of like across the board, like nobody will be able to get a Gamergate booth into any conventions. And so, but it's possible that it wasn't in the literature, it wasn't like written down. And I wonder, and I'd have to like look into it to see, but I wonder if this clause is not only in CalX, but it's in other places now too. Like it's been added in.
Now the Edmonton and I think it's the Saskatoon expos, they're all under the same. So at least those 3 expos have the same clause.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the Vancouver one or the Vulcan one, but
No, and I found that a lot of the smaller expos that are retain their roots in like fan organizations or organizations are not behaving like these kinds of censorious fascists. A lot of them seem to be a little bit more sensible about these issues.
yeah.
You know, it just seems like it's really awful to see that kind of that inclusive atmosphere that used to characterize conventions turn to this. Because it used to be more like anything, not anything goes, but people, you put up a booth. And I've actually seen that. I think that's the kind of atmosphere is still there in, for example, C4 in Winnipeg. Like I think they're an independent and they're still fan run. So they still seem to be a lot more, anarchistic, perhaps. And it's unfortunate to see that these bigger ones just become so hateful and,
Well, I think
divisive.
it's related to the association with feminism. Like like Milo Yiannopoulos saying, feminism is cancer. You look at what's happened with Marvel Comics lately.
Oh God!
Oh God!
Like it's just they were Marvel was bought by Disney, and Disney is so ingrained with corruption and feminism, and it's just they've destroyed the Marvel brand, at least for the comics. The movies haven't been too bad, but there have been, if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there has been some really cringeworthy lines in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and Jessica Jones have been really cringy.
And also, now we've recently reviewed Mockingbird. And Cap is has become a Hydra agent. And have you seen the Green Arrow?
Yep.
Has declared himself
that's
a
a
social
DC
justice
thing,
warrior.
but yeah, he
that's true. Sorry about that, but
no, but I mean, I think it's pointed because despite the fact that Marvel's being really obvious about it, DC Comics is not far behind, and
No.
I think it's without getting. I mean, I think it's more of a. It could be a shift in the culture of the people creating, not necessarily people reading, but the people creating it. Like there's a culture there, and they think this is what people need or want or what needs to be said, and this is the medium that either I want to do it in or the one that I'm stuck with because I can't do anything. Like if you're a writer, for example, let's say you wanted to be a novelist or something else, and you got to put food on the table, so you get a job making comics. And you don't really like comics, you don't know comics, which is something that I've noticed is a recurring theme with the people that are at Marvel or at these big companies that are writing this sort of social justice stuff. They don't really know it, they don't like it, they don't have a fondness for it, they're not passionate about it, but it pays the bills, and so they do it. And then they do it in a way that they're basically like, well, I want to make this enjoyable for myself in some way. I'm going to inject my politics into it. I'm going to throw as much crap under the bus as possible to get people to see my worldview. At least that way I can get some enjoyment out of it. That's why, I mean, I can go into and theorize why they made Captain America a Hydra agent. I think
wasn't Walt Disney an anti-Semite?
Well, there is that, but I think that what it is they recently replaced Cap with Sam Wilson, who's the Falcon, and there are people who didn't like that for multiple reasons. One is Sam Wilson was already his own character; he was already great as it was. Giving him the mantle really kind of takes something away from what he is. But of course, the folks that worked on the books and the people, the social justice warriors around it, they only see things through the lens of identity politics, so they thought, oh, people are being racist because Sam Wilson's a black man, and they don't like the idea of a black Captain America. And so, but they knew that there was a real Steve Rogers out there somewhere, so I think that what happened was the writer said, I'm going to bring back Steve Rogers, and I'm going to make him a Nazi/Hydra agent, as evil as possible, always was, all along, because he's a white male, and Sam
Well,
Wilson is the cure to this problem. You know,
there is some, I can see that, that the artists and the writers, that they could have that, but I think there is a lot of the corporations and the organizations' influence, and HR departments' influence in the way the comics are written. Because you look at Archie comics, and I don't know if you guys have ever read Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, but I did read a lot of Archie when I was a kid. That's
Well,
actually how I taught myself to draw, by looking at those comics.
Well, they tried to make Jughead gay, and they tried to make Rotor in the Sonic comics into a gay character, but Archie's Archie Comics management put a stop to it. They said this is not really something that we're not going to just change the characters in order to fit with the times. Like, they've been set up for years and years as this is who the character are, and we're not just going to use it as an attention grabber to throw. Oh yeah, Jughead's been gay all along, and Rotor, the reason he never fit in is because he was gay or something like that.
Right.
And I know I've kind of liked Archie for that, for taking a stand and saying, what, we're going to keep our characters the way we intended them originally. And
yeah, I mean, those books have been around since the 40s, I think, or the 50s. They're really old. And, they're extremely saccharine and simple, and they're not, they weren't supposed to explore anything really deep. You read a story that can go anywhere from like 1 page to like 3 pages, and there's a laugh at the end, and that's it. They're just goofy little comics.
Yeah.
But these people, there is no limit to what they want to change, basically.
And also, I mean, it's interesting how they've just totally started to colonize artistic spaces and artistic groups. And like, for example, we recently had on Doomed on, and he described how in Hollywood, he's worried about people knowing about his actual opinions. And on that chat, because his actual opinions are obviously not politically correct, they're not in line with social justice warriors and feminists, or at least they're not in line with not calling them out on their bullshit. And he talked about how he can't be out at work because he works in Hollywood. And there was somebody else who posted on that video, is Dosiaman. I work for Hollywood making movies, commercials, etc. That social justice warrior feminist shit has infected Hollywood. Starting this fall and next year, there's going to be a lot more feminist social justice movies and TV shows. The fear in Undoom not wanting to talk is similar to many of the men that work in Hollywood. I was on the set of Better Things, a social justice warrior feminist show coming to FX, and I asked a male crew member of this if this was an LGBT feminist-themed show. His face grew dim, and he told me to be careful with what I say around set. It was a simple question, but his response was enough to answer my question and then some. Ghostbusters is just the beginning of things to come from the entertainment industry. So,
in one sense, though, I think that's hilarious because they're just going to kill their own industry.
Oh yeah, like there's two things to this. They are trying to close up. They're trying to catch lightning in a bottle when it comes to artistic creativity. They're trying to box it away and completely define it and get and just solidify it, just ossify it, turn it to stone. And it's the one thing you can't. If the feminists and social justice warriors succeed in locking down creativity, and believe me, we have gone through so much of the swill that they create based on their theories and ideology. It's just awful. It's uncreative schlock. It has no merit outside of its process. It's a chick track. They're creating chick track. They're turning media and art and everything into a fucking chick track.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. So, and if they think that they're going to succeed, they're not. Now,
the funniest thing is this isn't creative.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Exact opposite of creative. and what they're going to succeed in doing, if the feminists and social justice warriors manage to lock down Hollywood and lock down games, which I don't think they'll be able to, and lock down comics, is they will leech everything creative out of it. Well, they will destroy everything creative. And if there's one thing I know about human beings, is you cannot stop them being creative. Once you try to get that tiger by the tail, you're just gonna Hollywood will die. Comics will die. Human creativity will not die. It will just shed its skin and move into some other immensely incredible new field of creativity, a new world of absolute lack of rules. That's the nature of artists. They go to a place with no rules, and they pull out the things in that place and give us some rules so we can see them. That's what an artist does. And creating places with rules upon rules upon rules upon rules just kills the art. It kills the creativity. And it'll kill the industry. Dead. Basically, the feminists and social justice warriors, unless they somehow manage to make that break, and they take their thing on the road, and they start the way the National Socialists did it, and they start moving their bigotry into politics in a big way, which is possible. They're just going to kill an industry, and hopefully they'll go with it. They'll just kill Hollywood, and hopefully they'll go with it.
If you look at any socialist or communist country in history, you look at how poor their innovation is. Karl Marx wanted everybody to be the same, to be like-minded, and that's conformity. And when you bring this conformity in, you kill innovation, you kill creativity, and that's what happened. If you look at any socialist or communist society in history, they had no advances in technology other than weapons. They had no advances in technology, and their food supplies were destroyed because they couldn't innovate their farming industry. They couldn't innovate how to produce greater crops, how to create greater yields, and it's the same kind of thing. I really believe SJWs and the like feminists, they're actually socialists, and like you're saying, Allison, they're gonna kill the industry because they're gonna kill creativity. They're gonna make it socialist conformity.
Oof.
Well, I mean, just taking it out of the political realm, because I don't really weigh on too much on those kinds of politics, but I do see a group that can't handle free expression, and I'll call it what it is. It's a group that cannot handle free expression, and is trying desperately to colonize. I don't know what's the end goal, because the only thing that they will achieve is destroying these industries.
Yeah.
You cannot take away the creativity. You cannot chain it up and make this dreck that nobody cares about. I wonder if this is part of something bigger. I don't know. I mean, that's conspiracy talk, but.
Well, who's throwing money at these projects anyway? I can't. Who funded Ghostbusters? Well, I feel bad for them.
I think that the people that fund these things and produce them, they honestly think that they're doing good. I think that they believe that this is exactly what is needed, and they're throwing their money at it. And yes, they're throwing it away. I don't know about Ghostbusters because obviously it's not out yet, but based on the mostly failed attempts of the past of this stuff and failed TV shows, like they canceled Agent Carter because people were getting sick of the girl power message and they were just bored with what they were being presented with. There was the stakes were just never there. Like nobody cared. It lost money and they had to cancel. And I think that the people who fund these things or attempt to, I think that they think that these things are needed, but they basically bought into that feminist narrative that what is it? I got into an argument with people online over the I think it's Get Captain America a Boyfriend hashtag, And I wasn't saying that, you know, like they shouldn't do it, they can't do it, I want to stop them. Obviously, I believe in freedom of expression. If they want to do that, then that's their business. You know, go ahead. But I was just trying to make the argument that maybe it's not really the best way to, you know, have representation of like a gay character. And I was presenting other options, and nobody wanted to hear it. And they were getting angry because they thought that essentially I was trying to push some heteronormative, you know, message through, and I was basically I was like, guys, I'm not like you. I don't see things in the lens of identity politics. I see things of what's good and what's not good, you know. And what you guys are doing, you think is good because your heart's in the right place, but you're not doing any good because you're not going to make anything that lasts. It's like making Idris Elba Bond. If you make Idris Elba the next James Bond, this is just my example. He will make a few movies. Let's just optimistically, he'll make like 3 or 4 movies, and then he'll be done. And from that point on, he will only be remembered as that one time that James Bond was a black guy. That's what he'll be remembered for. And you will have thrown away an opportunity to make something completely new and unique that stars a character, whatever it is that you want, because you needed to put something in something that was bankable. Like before these things were making billions of dollars, nobody cared. But now that it's raking in all kinds of money, now that Ghostbusters has like, you know, an incredible background of nostalgia and you know, essentially what should have been something that couldn't lose, that's when they decide, oh, well, we already had this thing that's basically a sure bet, let's plug some women into it. Well, that's not what people want. They did that with, you know, they do that with stuff all the time. That's why people care, like these feminists and social justice warriors care about the Marvel Universe now. Because when it wasn't making any money, they didn't care. But now that it is, oh, well, now we care. Now I'm a nerd. I'm into superheroes. I'm into Star Wars. I'm into Ghostbusters. No, it's all phony.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
Yes. No, you know what? If you're listening and you enjoy this kind of conversation, Jeremy, did you have any final words to say?
No, I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. We got into some territory that me and Brian have been treading recently.
Yeah.
Some very distressing territory. But yeah, it's like maybe it's a good thing they're going after the artists, because the artists, if you try to chain the artists, it just doesn't work. The art goes somewhere else. The creativity goes somewhere else. And I would say that the creativity is really with these new ideas that we're bringing to the table, men's rights and men's issues and recognition of men's vulnerabilities and all of the dynamics that when we ask the question why is it so hard for society to recognize that men are vulnerable, that men need assistance? Why is that so hard? What are the underlying reasons for that? Let's look at the theories. Let's look at the possible explanations. I mean, this is really exciting stuff. It's new. It's innovative. It's things that you can apply to characters and plots and situations. And to me, for me, men's issues is not just something that I believe in. Like, I believe that men should be recognized when they are victims of social problems. Men's issues are really freaking inspiring because it creates a new way of understanding how it is to be human, and a new way of understanding character and human stories. And to me, that's like some of the best part of it. And if you agree, if you're out there and you're listening and you agree and you want to see more artists exploring the concepts behind men's issues and men's rights, and you want to see us looking into the dynamics that underpin these issues, you know, consider going to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio, and throwing some shekels into the hat for the artists. Because God knows, I mean, we need it. Since more and more art is being chained by social justice and not allowed to freedom to express itself. So, Brian,
right.
Take it away. You have any final words?
I will take it away. No, the only thing I'll say is, speaking of art, feel free to join us or me and Sugar Tits and others on tomorrow's art stream, where we'll probably be talking more about comics and stuff and making some art on the air. So. We'll see you tomorrow if I see you, and otherwise, have a good night, and thanks, Allison, and thank you, Jeremy.